Wellbeing, leadership, sustainability, I mean, they are all about being connected, aren't they? They're all about, all about seeing the world away from just this sort of egoic sort of idea of it's all about me and the world around me is just there either to be conquered or to be avoided or to be sort of, or to be dealt with. So wellness, sustainability, it's about sort of seeing the world in a much more holistic way. There's a lot of confusion about where change is going to come from. I mean, I think what we're seeing increasingly and across all sectors of society is a recognition that something has to give. That the current system, it's so embedded in and the power around it holds that status quo in place because there's this sort of belief that we want to keep things the same because it's worked until now and so many people's status and wealth depend on the current system. And it's really difficult to see how that will be dislodged because it affects everyone's lives. All of our goods and services and jobs and this global interconnectedness relies on the current system. And so and people have we're living almost in the milieu of that system. So we don't even see the system anymore. So it's very hard to change something that we are all part of and actually all benefit from. It's not, and of course there are lots of people who are excluded, but a lot of people benefit from the current system. And so because the system is so complex, what people are realizing is that individually you can't create change because actually we're not powerful enough to create change on our own. So even businesses, like even some of the more advanced businesses in sustainability like Unilever say, we can't do it on our own. In terms of the scale of the problem and the complexity of the problem, we can't deal with it. So it's very hard to know where change will come from because change has to almost come from everywhere. We need business to wake up. We need politicians to wake up. We need citizens who have been thought of as consumers for too long to wake up. And so you say, well, where's that wake-up call going to come from? And the truth is we don't know. A lot of people now are very fearful that actually change will only happen from collapse. And we see that so much in our individual lives and in the lives of societies where we keep doing the same thing until suddenly, we hit a brick wall and there's a collapse of some sort, whether it's a heart attack or a country sort of economy going downhill or whatever the problem is. And suddenly we're forced to face the truth. And a lot of people think actually that we're not intelligent enough as a species, given that already for 20 years we've done very little about climate change, we've done very little about resource use, we've done very little about poverty, that actually in good times we haven't done anything about it. So what's going to change? It's not changing. So that's why there's such a strong feeling that things have to get really, really bad, really visceral, which we're starting to see with extreme weather, that it gets so bad that, it's like a doctor, you have an illness, you say, oh, I'll ignore it, and it gets worse, and ignore it, and finally gets so bad that you have to go and see the doctor, and the doctor will say, you will die unless you do something about it. And even then people don't do things unless they feel a motivation to want to change. And it's the motivation that people say, actually, what is it worth living for, that starts to change. And so I think one of the things for me is about what will create change is when we want change to happen, when we actually we're prepared that the change we are scared of because we don't know what it will involve is worth more than the status quo, which we know is going to kill us. And I think, so we're coming to that sort of, that sort of choice point where it's two very direct and distinct points. And one is, one path is fear, which is actually we close down, we say, okay, too much to deal with, close down, we just carry on, pretend it's all okay, and then we really, really hit the wall in a major way. Or the other direction is a direction of love, and those are the two key forces in the universe of love, where you say, actually, we can work together, and we see this greater collaboration across society. We need to work together to create change. And actually, our lives are important. The earth is important. The sort of nature is important. It has huge value, and we start to reawaken to what we've lost and start to do that. And we're coming up to that sort of really close. It feels like that point where we either go one way or the other. And that has to be sort of something that's not the consciousness of individuals, but the consciousness of societies.